Welcome to today's episode of The Halal Gap. I'm your host, Sofia Alani, and today I am joined by...
your other host, Sikandar.
And today we have a new guest behind the mic. Sana, where are you at?
Woo!
Hi.
Awesome. We're really excited about today's guest. Take it away, Sikandar.
He's an actor, a writer, a stand-up comedian, and the proud owner of one of the sweetest mustaches I've ever seen. You may know him best for his work as a writer on Netflix's Patriot Act, for his incredible stand-up sets that he's performed in everything from Jimmy Kimmel Live to Bill Burr's The Ringers, or for his recurring role in Ahmed's Ramadan Diary with Ahmed Weinberg. Joining us from, actually, I don't know where you are right now, but we'll find that out very soon. Please welcome to the podcast, Ismael Loutfi.
Woo! Woohoo!
What's up?
Where are you actually? I know you were doing a bit of a road trip.
Don't
are you
tell
back
people.
in New York? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, we were gone. We were in Atlanta and Naples, Florida, but now I'm back in Brooklyn.
Okay,
So,
right on.
yeah.
Back in the epicenter. Although
Back in the epicenter.
New York is, you guys have done a good job of getting things back under control, I feel. Like from a COVID perspective.
Maybe. I don't know. I think we're about to be going through a second wave like everyone else, because right outside my door of my apartment, there's like a restaurant with a bunch of people eating like without masks. God. So I'm like I'm watching the second wave develop right in front of me. And we're just like, that's
man.
Yeah, we're taking it very seriously though.
No, that's
me and the wife.
Good.
Yeah.
What was it like doing a road trip during COVID? Like, were there any differences? Was it pretty regular?
I think it was interesting to see what places, like just based on pit stops, like what places were taking it really seriously and what places weren't. Because I think like in Virginia, everybody, like where we stopped, everyone was wearing a mask. But for some reason in Delaware, everybody was like just coughing on each other and shit. Like nobody cared. People were acting like it was fine in Delaware. And then we're my wife's dad lives in Naples. Everyone is the same thing. Everybody is just walking around like nothing is going on. People are treating it like there's
Florida's
not
wild,
a pandemic. Man. Florida is
Mm-hmm.
insane. It's really sad.
Yeah. Especially not to generalize, but like obviously there's a lot more of an elderly population in Florida. Like you would think that they would be a little more cautious, but I don't know. You guys...
it really, it's kind of it's got like Quranic biblical vibes really heavily. How people are just not heeding the warnings. People are like, no, it's not real. It's not real. And they're the people most vulnerable, like these old rednecks and these old conservatives who just like, God, it's real sad.
It is wild. Like honestly, I have some like more heavily right-leaning people still on my Instagram, which I'm like teetering to the point of like, is it time to finally just like block this person or not? But
2020, man.
Yeah, no, but you keep them around. They're like emotionally they're canceled, but like just on a general level, I just like to see it, just to see what the other side likes to say and promote. And it is like truly a farce to them. Like they actually think this is a giant like propaganda machine. Yeah, it's like a hoax. And it's like, what? I don't understand. Anyway.
Yeah. It's real scary. It's real. It makes me feel good about my faith. Just that like, even with science, people will be like, no, we don't believe, it's like, I don't know. Sorry if I took a really serious turn there. But,
no. You go where you got to go, man. No.
Yeah.
I think we've all been doing that kind of deep reflecting right now because one, there's nothing else to do, but also
literally nothing
of the context. Totally. So have you, like, other than this road trip, what have your quarantine life been like?
God, pretty bland, truly. I mean, I feel like the worst thing is just that that's like the only thing we can talk about. That's like, it's so annoying that's like the only thing that we can talk about with each other, just as a race right now of humans. True. It's like, that's going to be That's going to be the most annoying part about like the apocalypse. Actually, it's just that there's not going to be
No one will
any
talk
other.
about anything
not gonna-
else.
Boring.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Oh, maybe the lake that's on fire everywhere. Like, there's not any other things that are going to be interesting to people. It's just real. It's real boring.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't want to take too seriously, but at the beginning of the quarantine, my dad actually died. So
Oh,
it was.
jeez.
I know. I'm gonna make it real sad, but there's no other way to talk about it. So it was just real
No, of
sad
course.
for the first couple months. It was in like March. So anyway, just a lot of grieving, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then I mean now I'm starting to feel better, and I'm starting to write again, and yeah, all right,
Well, no.
nice talking to you guys.
Okay. I mean, no, I'm incredibly sorry to hear that, but
Yeah, sorry for your loss.
but let's try to maybe pivot into happier topics if we can.
Yeah.
But we
Ignore
can get
your
back to,
grief?
no.
So
We can get back
rude.
to I'm not trying to ignore his grief. Oh my goodness.
Wow,
Sophia's a lot better at that part of the equation than I am. So, Sophia, if you want to take over a grief counseling,
Well, no, grief counseling. Yeah, this whole new vision for the podcast. No, but I just want to. Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss. Was that really hard to like do that? Like, I don't know if everything was already shut down when that happened, but were you able to be with family and everything?
It was really insane. It was very bleak because so basically Patriot Act, we're all like working, and okay, so first let me preface by saying January and February 2020 were awesome for me. Like they were the best months. Like I got married and Patriot Act was going well, and I got into the Comedy Cellar. I was like doing a million shows. Everything was amazing. And yeah, like just living out so many dreams suddenly. And then like in the middle of March, Patriot Act, like we all started working from home for like a week. And then one day we all got an email that was like, guys, we're indefinitely shutting down because like we can't do the show from home right now for some reason. We have to like figure out a schedule. We have to make it like safe for the camera crew or whatever. Like it has to be a very organized methodology that needs to be implemented. So for the time being, you're all unemployed. And I was like, what? Like it felt very real suddenly that like shit's stopping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like 2 hours later, I got a call that my dad died. So it was just kind of like, oh shit. And of course, stand up is gone, like it's illegal now.
Right.
So so it was just kind of like everything I had like disappeared, and it was just replaced with my dad being dead, which was brutal. But you know, it'll be okay.
Was it sudden or was it something that you
it
guys
was
were
long. No,
somewhat preparing for? Or?
Yeah, no, he had kidney disease, so he had been kind of going for a long time, for a few years, just like getting sicker, which is really sad. But I don't know. It would have been a lot easier to handle with, of course, like my livelihood. You know what I mean?
Right. No.
So,
Yeah. With some, I mean, not distractions, but just other things also being able. Yeah.
No, honestly, distractions like certainly things like that would have been really nice to have. It would have been nice to like not have to think about it for an hour. Every night for 1 hour, just be able to like do a different thing, or even process it on stage. Like I totally would have been able to do that. Like I probably could have. I know this is extremely selfish and such a comedian thing to say, but I probably could have developed a bit about the grief or something, But
sure.
Like, no, that was also just kind of like gone, and so yeah, it was pretty rough for a while there.
It's interesting because I read somewhere that your first introduction to stand up was also born out of a traumatic experience that you went through. Has comedy always been sort of that outlet for you to express your emotions, or was it more of a distraction at that time and it's since blossomed into something more, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of comics do this. but it's definitely been that way for me. It's definitely been a thing that, like something terrible will happen to me, and then, 3 weeks later, it'll be like a nice 3-minute joke that I could put in the act. It might not be healthy. I think it's probably very damaging, to my mental well-being, to sort of commodify my sadness like that. But I don't know. I think it does help. I think it does, at least in the short term, help.
I was gonna
Um,
say, is it damaging? Because I feel like that's like such a good way to like process and turn it into
yeah,
something a little more like productive. I don't know if that's the right
sure.
word, but like it kind of seems like that's like a dope outlet that you have.
That's the thing. It is not unhealthy as long as stand up is allowed to be done.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough, fair enough.
but as soon as it gets taken away, then it's like, oh wow, I put all of my mental health eggs in a basket that is now spreading disease. So it's not good now. It was good.
It's good until there's a pandemic, and then it's
Yeah,
not so good.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think we've learned has really just shaken every single thing up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't
So,
know if you.
yeah.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's been the awkward thing. This is the first kind of public format where I've mentioned that my dad died, because it's just been it's a shitty time to have a thing happen. Like
Totally.
it's really hard to be like, well, this happened to me in the midst of
Mhm.
200,000
No, for
people
sure.
dying, and plus Black Lives Matter. It's like there's so many things going on that are sort of pinned in sadness and anger that
Right.
it feels really weird to like take up space and be like, well, hi, I'm a comedian, and renal failure, it's a real bitch. Like it just feels like
No, no, no,
random.
no.
I haven't told anybody really, so other than
Well,
close friends and shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, I've been having a lot of conversations with people about this as well, about how, I feel like right now we're in this context where only giant, like global issues matter. And it's like, well, at the
Right.
same time, we can't forget that, like, individual issues also matter, and individual wins also matter, so like people,
Sure.
I know so many people who are like, oh, my show got picked up, or this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, but they feel bad celebrating it. And like, that's the other side of the equation, where it's like, because all these other things are happening, that we feel like our own issues or our own wins aren't as successful. I think it's really important to still be able to both celebrate and to grieve even things that we might be going through that everybody else isn't going through. So bottom line, I appreciate you sharing that, man. I mean, we're very, very sorry to hear it. But
Thanks for not being weird about it, really. I questioned no. I questioned whether or not I should mention it.
No, not at all, of course.
But then I listened to some episodes, and I was like, oh, you guys are okay with going a little deep here and there, so
no, of
it'll be
course.
fine. You won't shut down.
I appreciate that's what you gleaned from the other episodes. That
right.
means you're doing it right.
There you go. Do you have you ever listened to Mark Maron's podcast, like WTF with Mark Maron?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard his one with Seinfeld, where Did you?
I just listened to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remember how they were like kind of going back and forth about how pain and comedy are on opposite sides of the same coin. Mark's like a big believer in that, right? Where there's like this very fine line between like pain and comedy. And Seinfeld's like, no, like what the hell are you talking about? Like your job is to make people laugh, and that's it. Like don't bring your personal shit into this. Like it is what it is. What like do you have any thoughts on that? Like do you buy that idea that there's like this fine line between pain and comedy, or are you more of the opinion that like, no, my job is to make people laugh, and I'm going to do that from a place of happiness, and that's that?
Right. I think that Mark and Seinfeld, in that they kind of were just agreeing, and they didn't know it, because Maron's whole thing is that comedy should come from this dark place, and Seinfeld's thing is that it shouldn't, right? But I think Seinfeld's dark place is those observations. I think his like sadness or whatever is his really mundane, kind of banal, observational, corny comedy. Like which, when you think about it, is very sad in a way that you could be so dedicated to picking apart such minute things in the world. Like I don't know. I think they're both really depressed, probably. And that's because I agree with what Marin is saying more. Like, I think comedy does require some trauma and some sad things. But then the thing Seinfeld is saying is just that it has to be funny. So
Right.
they're kind of just agreeing. They just want to
Mm.
pretend like they're not. So there's drama, which is what comedians love. We
Yeah,
love to pretend that there's drama in the comedy world when there's not.
It's like we're all agreeing, but we're still going to argue about it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Sounds
exactly.
like me and Sikandar all of the time.
Yeah. 100%.
So I just to kind of bring it back, because I know we did that awesome intro, especially love that we mentioned the mustache, because please go into detail about that later. But like I don't know that our listeners really know that much about you, like how you got started and stuff. So can you kind of give us a little background on how, like, who are you? Where did you grow up? Where were you born? Like, what would you like to share with our listeners?
So what's going on, guys? Just talking to the listeners now. How you doing? Salam, how's your quarantine going? No, comedian. I started comedy like 9 years ago when I was 18, after I got divorced from my wife
At 18?
in Florida. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was dope. It was really sick. God, I feel like I'm testing you guys just as a format and as a show. I'm coming on here just depressing you guys. Anyway, so after the first abortion, comedy really kind of took off. And no. I'm a comedian from Florida, Muslim. My father is Syrian. Mother is a convert, American white lady. Yeah, and I don't know. I just was doing comedy in the South, in Florida and Georgia for a long time, and then moved to LA. Was doing comedy there. LA sucks, and then alhamdulillah, I got the writing job for Hassan Minaj when the show first started, and I've been in New York ever since. So that's kind of the very, very brief explainer to the uninitiated. Yeah.
So I have so many questions. So I guess first, so Florida, I know that like in creeping your Instagram, you posted a few things about like your hometown and how it seems to be quite anti-Muslim.
Right.
And like what was that like growing up there, and like has that shaped the way that you like address your faith in your comedy?
Yeah, I think so. I'm from Ocala, which is in central Florida, and it's just like a horse town, super redneck. But to be honest with you, I like a lot of, children of immigrants and sort of Muslim Americans. I was very secluded, and I just kind of didn't mess around with like regular Ocalan people. So I kind of didn't see a lot of the, racism I probably would have, and a lot of the hate, even though it's it's definitely around. It's just like in your periphery, no matter what you do. Like there's going to be a Confederate flag or somebody with like some shitty bumper sticker, and signs for businesses that have like weird kind of hateful messages on them. But I never.
What's the shittiest bumper sticker you've ever seen?
The shittiest bumper sticker I ever saw? God, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know if you know this about Florida, but Florida is all about like signage that is abrasive. Yeah. Like if you're driving into Florida from Georgia, the billboards are like insane. It's every comedian in Florida has like 30 minutes of hacky billboard jokes about like just all these billboards that are like, do you know where you're gonna go when you die? Yeah, they're huge, and there's images of the devil, and there's I mean, like Westboro Baptist churchy energy around everything. I'm trying to think of the worst bump. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned bumper stickers, because my dad was actually like the most like, this is a tangent, but I think it's interesting. He like decked out his car. He had this blue Pontiac, and he painted all over it like Islamic messages. And
why is
I'm
that
trying
on your Instagram, man?
why,
Holy.
honestly, because I've never thought about like, it never felt like the right time. Like I always was like, I don't want to like waste this thing. I don't want to do it.
That
And
is
then like
gold.
it gets 150 likes, and then like I move on, and you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Like I
Yeah.
want to make a
That's an
documentary about
album
this
cover.
shit. You know
That's
what I
an
mean?
album cover for sure.
Thank
Oh, yeah,
you.
or a documentary
Thank you.
for sure.
On the back of the car, it says IslamAlways.com. I don't know if you know Yusuf Estes. Do you know
I'm
Yusuf
going to that
Estes?
website right now. I don't. No.
No.
Oh, he's this Texan imam who's like,
Okay.
who my dad like didn't like that much, but like liked enough that he took the name of the website and put it on his car. And
Quite a bit of liking. That's a commitment.
That's the funny
Sanda's
thing.
doing research on it right now.
He was just kind of like trying to front, like he just wanted to like show off that he really was going above and beyond for the dawah. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he even went to the website. He just liked the name.
That's awesome. I love that that's also being done in like the context of the city and town in which you lived in, right? It's no, not only am I Muslim, I'm like so Muslim that I'm gonna like put it all over my car and make sure all of you racist mofos can see it. I love it.
Yes.
That's
no,
a flex
100%.
right there.
He was flexing all the time, and he always wanted to drive the furthest he could. Like he was like, I want to go to the furthest Sam's Club. I want to go to the furthest, Publix, or I don't know if you have Publix, probably not.
We have just those stores, but they're both great. I know it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Publix is amazing. But he would always just want to go as far as he could so that he could drive the car throughout as much of Florida and Ocala as he could to just show off. So, I mean,
was it dangerous driving around in a car like that? Like, were there ever any scary things that happened?
That's what I mean by like being secluded. Like I drove in that car all the time, and I just kind of like kept my eyes on the road. Like I didn't, like I knew people were flipping us off, and I just like didn't really notice. Like I didn't care really, because my dad didn't take it seriously. He thought it was really funny when people would get mad.
Yeah.
That's such a good way to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Totally. And also, I mean, he was asking for it. Like that it wasn't just Islam always. He had all kinds of messages on it. Like Jesus never said worship me or my blood. Stop lying to your children. Buddhism is atheism. Like I'm not even kidding. Like he had like all kinds of messages, taking shots at everyone around. Even if like there was a Buddhist nearby, he was, I mean, yeah, he really like, he made sense in the context of Florida. Like people were like, yeah, I feel like he didn't get as much shit as he would have if he was in like Pennsylvania or something, because people in Florida are just sort of like, yeah, be mean. That's our thing.
Do you think he was going to be like fully committed? So it wasn't, he was like half-assed, like, no, like Islam is cool too. He's like, listen, all of you, I'm coming for all of you. And then Florida was like, yeah, okay, that's how we do it here.
Mutual respect.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, we lived 30 minutes from, do you remember the guy who burned the Quran? Like he was like his big thing.
Yeah. I remember that.
We're like right next to that guy. Like I went to college like right by that dude. So it's just a very inflamed kind of state, I guess. But anyway, I definitely picked up a lot of like comedic instincts from his kind of mania or whatever you want to call it. Like,
fair enough. It's interesting because when you talk to a lot of like comics, Muslim comedians specifically, they kind of like, not to generalize, but a lot of them have very specific material that's like for a Muslim audience, or they have like a material that's like much more broad based. But I remember the first time I saw you was a couple of years ago. You did a show when Rami was doing his like Friends of Rami thing in Brooklyn, preparing for his set. You did a show, and it was like a very non-Muslim audience. And it was the first time I heard your entire like Uber driver bit, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is like killing it, and like killing it in front of like a non-Muslim audience, but with humor that's very much inspired by his faith. And I was like, man, this is like one of the first times I'd ever seen that, where it's like, yes, I'm like unabashedly Muslim, and like my content is going to be derived from my lived experience, but it's also very relatable to a broad non-Muslim audience. Is that something that you were like, very consciously have developed over time, or has that just kind of been a welcome reception to your experiences?
I think it developed unconsciously over the years, because starting in Florida when I was a teenager, a lot of my comedy, like at first, my first things that I was talking about were very like basic. Like I was trying to talk about being single, and I was trying to talk about not drinking alcohol, because those were like the two most kind of impact. Halal.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying though. I wasn't trying to be halal. I was trying to like talk about just like being a regular person who for some reason doesn't drink, and for some reason isn't getting laid a bunch. You know what I mean? In the city I went to college, which was like a big party town, Gainesville. So like I kind of like tried not to talk about being a Muslim, and just tried to talk about my very bizarre, unique experience as a brown guy with a weird name who kind of has these like practices, you know what I mean? Until one day I did like a Muslim joke, and then it like did really well, whereas before I was bombing, terribly. And then I kind of realized like, oh, you can like talk about being a Muslim, and people are really interested in it. And I guess the reason I'm saying that is that at first my Muslim material was kind of like pandery a little bit, and a little bit like, oh, terrorist jokey, and making fun of like the Middle East and stuff like that. And it kind of morphed into being a little bit more honest to how I feel over 10 years, you know what I mean? Because I was aware that like, if I went to New York, or if I went to LA at that point in my career, and I was doing jokes that were like kind of like basically for rednecks, that it wouldn't play well, so it sort of like developed over time as I got more comfortable with it. So yeah, I guess that's it.
And so do you feel like the audience you had in front of you played a lot into that, or was that like a more internal choice to be like more authentic in speaking more authentically about your life experiences?
I think the audience, of course, is the biggest thing. I mean, this is why I agree with Seinfeld a lot in what he was saying, is that like, you could go on stage and be really true to yourself, and the truth to yourself is just probably not going to be very funny. So you have to learn how to be true to yourself and have it be funny. So when I first started, I was less concerned with being true to myself, because it just wouldn't have been very funny at the time. And I was more concerned with just getting laughs. And, as audiences kind of became more liberal, I think it did have to do with audiences like getting more woke in general. We kind of grew together in a weird way, where like now I have like a pretty good vibe. Like when I see a crowd, like I can sense very quickly how far they're willing to go with me in some Muslim material, and how far they're, like how tight they're going to be about certain things. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's
crowds are important.
No, I mean, for sure. And I think like before, like it reminds me of, I think it was here's the thing. We don't get the ringers in Canada, which is unfortunate. And it's like almost impossible to find online, but I think I found it, and I think I saw your set. It must have been that one. I'm assuming is that one, but you like open being like, I'm Muslim. Are there any Muslims in the crowd? And it was like dead silence.
Right.
and like that can go two ways, right? That could go into like people being mad awkward, or it can go into like, what happened, which was like everybody burst into laughter because they were like, oh shit, we don't have any Muslims here, but like we're on board to like learn about this dude who's like, coming out and saying it. So no, it makes sense that like the audience is also evolving to a point where they're much more receptive to that.
For sure. That was so funny, because like every time I took a big risk with that, because I was kind of doing like a hacky joke in that moment, where what I wanted to do is I wanted to go, any Muslims here? 90% of the time, there will be one Muslim in the crowd who will clap. 90% of the time, somebody will go, woo, right? So I was like banking on that. And this is how the joke would go. And I don't know if I stand by it, but I was doing it at the time. It was taped a year ago. So, I mean, how far we've come so quickly. But the joke is just like, any Muslims here? woo, somebody shouts, and then I go, haha, cool, now. And so the joke is like that we're gonna blow up the venue. And it does really well. It does well because people kind of feel uncomfortable and they laugh at it. But
Because they can't quite tell how serious you are.
exactly. And then it gets a big laugh, and then I go, ha, just kidding. Now I like do it again. But that was so funny because I was like, any Muslims here, and there was just no one. And I just had to go, all right, never mind. That bit's just not gonna happen, I guess.
Oh my god, that's too funny. That's too funny.
Yeah, it really sucked, but it worked out. It was fine. People laughed.
You should just have a plant at this point, just to make sure.
You need a token Muslim in the crowd.
Yeah,
just have somebody in there. That'd be great.
One Muslim you always bring with you.
That would be. I should start doing that. Did you not? You don't get ringers even on YouTube in Canada?
No, so it's blocked on YouTube in Canada, but I found it on, I think like the Ringers Facebook uploaded it, or Comedy Central Facebook uploaded it. So I found it there, but it was not. You know, it's funny because I had a similar conversation with Rami when he launched his show on Hulu, and it wasn't available in Canada. He was like, dude, just download it illegally. So if you listen to our podcast with Rami, which was our first episode of this thing, he's telling everybody to illegally download it. So I don't know if you want to say that about the Ringers, but
please download it illegally. I mean, Comedy Central, like they have a terrible like streaming services. They don't allow people to see anything. It's kind of crazy.
There's a lot of paywalls involved. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Totally.
But anyway, talking about a show that anybody can watch, though, on Netflix, you, as we mentioned, you're a key part of the Patriot Act team. Which congratulations, by the way, you guys have had amazing success year over year.
Mm-hmm.
But like I find that show is in such a unique position as it relates to COVID because, you know, a lot of these late night shows and a lot of comedy shows were able to very easily adapt to just being like this digital format where, you know, it's just it's like the host in their home and it's good to go. But you guys rely so heavily on like amazing production value as part of the show. So how hard was it to adapt that format because of like the new kind of COVID reality?
Well, I'm just a writer, so
I'm assuming like even from a writing perspective, like did you guys have to think visually, or is that typically part of the routine, or what?
No, for sure. We always every graphic in there, all the cool graphics and the splashes and stuff are written by us. So we do write them, but we don't have to, of course, you know, program them or animate them or anything like that. So on that end, it didn't change too much. It just changed like. We couldn't write in crazy graphics. We couldn't like, I'm trying to think of something that we've done in the past. Like, I'm drawing a blank. I don't know, but we've done some crazy graphics on the show and we couldn't write that kind of thing in. God, it sucks that I can't think of an example. But other than that, for us, it was okay. For the show itself though, they had to move the whole studio. It's kind of crazy. They moved to Connecticut. Like Hassan did. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this stuff. Hopefully he doesn't hear it.
No, I think he's made that publicly available.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he has said it. So he moved to Connecticut, and then the head writer, who's like his best friend, also moved to Connecticut, and Netflix wouldn't let them like make the show unless it was just the two of them in the room. So basically our head writer had to like set up the camera, do all the like editing and production of like on the spot, like all the shooting, all the edits and takes and cuts and stuff, along with like writing all the episodes, you know, the majority of them. So it was pretty hard for him, but for us, we just kind of like, we sat back and just kind of like waited for them to figure it out and you know, just had a great time waiting. And then, and I'll be honest with you, I do think Patriot Act looks amazing, even with COVID. Like I think it still looks pretty good.
Totally.
100%.
All things considered.
Yeah, it doesn't give off like a cheesy green screen effect at all.
No, it's very impressive.
Our graphics team is insane. Like I do not know how they do everything.
Totally. No, and I mean, like the other part of that, like question, I guess, is much more relevant to you guys in that I'm assuming, and again, this is just based off of like what you had mentioned in terms of, you know, you guys were working hard in January and February. I'm assuming you guys had a lot of content that you wanted to cover this year, but obviously had to shift dramatically when you know, COVID hit, and of course, you know, Black Lives Matter started to gain steam once again, as it rightfully should. Were you guys constantly in a state of like writing and rewriting, or what was that process like?
Yeah, that was we're in an interesting position because I think every other late night show they do their episodes like with not too much advance. Like they're writing like last week tonight, he'll have some pieces that have been like well produced and researched for months and months in advance. But I think on the whole, people do their episodes like 2 weeks, 3 weeks notice, you know. Our show needs like several months to like be set up, you know, because the graphics are like a huge just swinging thing that has to be pinned to the right moment that he's like talking, and the jokes have to make sense. Like everything is so interconnected with the content that COVID like actually did screw up a bunch of stuff. Like we had taped 2 episodes, I'm pretty sure, prior to the shutdown, prior to everything shutting down. We had like banked 2 episodes that were like done in front of a live studio audience that it had nothing to do with the pandemic that was ravaging the country, that, you know, and we just had to basically throw them away and rewrite them. And I don't know if you've noticed, but every single episode starts with some caveat about COVID-19. Like every episode, and this is true of John Oliver too, but every episode starts out with like, you know, COVID-19 is ruining the world. Anyway, that's why I want to talk about taxes. And then it's like about taxes somehow. But like that was like the big lift on the writer's end, is like, how do we make, you know, whatever an episode, local news relate to COVID-19, which I mean, it's not that hard. It's so ubiquitous that it's like, yeah, you can plug it into anything and it makes sense.
Yeah. Also, that taxes episode was so dope. I sent that link to every family member and friend I have in the US. I was like, file for free here.
I think that it's super important, that one. Like, that like actually will affect people's lives, which is really cool.
And especially during COVID with like such high unemployment and like people just like it was so relevant. Like it's so funny how you're like, taxes, what's that? But like you're like, no, this is so on point right now.
Right. True.
Yeah. No, it's funny because it's funny that you mentioned that it literally takes you guys months and months to produce one episode. I remember before Patriot Act came on, and you were probably in the room, I just didn't know who you were at that time, but Hassan would do these like trial runs at Fat Black Pussycat in New York.
Yeah, I love those. So
they were awesome. I think I saw the affirmative action episode like 4 times being worked on.
So funny. Yeah.
And seeing like that transformation from like, you know, the first kind of week in which he did it to like the week leading up to Patriot Act was wild, right? And to see that like the production value start to increase on like even the graphics was insane. So is it still that iterative of a process, or is it now like, okay, you guys know, here's the formula, here's the production, plug in a topic, write it to make it relevant, and go?
Damn, I had a Google iterative relating to or involving iteration. Sorry, dude, I'm from Florida, man. We're not. Our parents didn't all move to Edmonton. We're not all smarties.
You guys have to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite a lot more.
Let me see. Okay, computational process.
Damn, dude. All right, the question basically, you get the gist.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I think the process has it's gotten smoother, but it's basically the same as it was. Like it's just, you know, research is like a wing of the show that's doing their thing, and they're always being silly and I don't know. It's basically all the same that it was, I'd say, except that we're
You're
all
still doing like multiple versions of the same episode over and over and over again until you guys feel like you got it.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah. No, totally. Unfortunately, that is still, I think, a part of the process that is like annoying. But I don't think it's. I think we're all just like better at dealing with it emotionally. Because you write your rough draft and then you turn it in, and then by the end of the process, it's like, what is this even about? It's so different. Not to say it's bad, but it's like it's a different product than what you kind of slaved over initially.
And do you feel like that's like increased your skills as a writer to like become more succinct or to like get to the joke, the point quicker? Like, has that helped?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I'm very appreciative. Like, I shit on Patriot Act a lot just with friends and stuff. But like, truly, just for, like, how much of a pain it can be. I think everyone probably does that works on it. It's just, can be a hard job, right? But it has definitely improved my abilities to like write and be cynical and critical of myself and kind of like be able to write a thing knowing that it's not going to be what I'm writing in the moment, like have that sort of like, bird's eye view of it and be able to create something and not be disheartened knowing that it's not going to be the same. I think it's a huge part of writing anything creatively because it's just all going to be edited, no matter what you do. Nobody writes something perfect in the first shot or ever really. I think
so was that hard to deal with? Because I know that like a lot of the writers I know, so like not comedy writers, or a lot of the writers I know are quite perfectionists. Like they're very much like it's really hard for them to go through that editing and rewriting process because they're like the first thing needs to be perfect, and if it's not, that means I'm a failure. And I imagine it's relatively similar with comedy because like that's you telling your own story and it's like something that is coming like from such an authentic place, and then you're like, if I can't land it the first time, like is that hard? I imagine it would be hard.
I mean, I don't think it's very hard. Like you're saying, is it hard to write something and have it not land the first time?
Yeah, or like, is it like, was it hard to kind of get used to that idea? Because you mentioned like it's easier now to be like critical of yourself and to realize that like the thing you write first draft is not going to be where it ends up. And so was it like hard to get used to that fact and like that go through the process and not be like, I'm not going to take this personally?
Oh yeah, no, it's very difficult. It was at first like devastating to write a thing and have a whole chunk of it be like this one joke idea that you had and like have like that be the bulk of the episode. And then to see like the head writer and Hassan just kind of like be like, nah, and like cut it. That does hurt. Like that did hurt at first a lot. But it's necessary. I'm just like very calloused now. I guess I am trying to say like, I don't know. Like you get so used to it that things start making it on the show. And you like, it feels amazing because you expect nothing to work, you become so cynical that when anything works that you're like, oh my God, this is a huge victory for my creativity. Which is very rewarding. Like, I don't know. I think being hypercritical and hyper cynical is like really important, especially in comedy, because so much of comedy is bombing, yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, that's you know what? Like it's funny because I do want to just clarify the only reason why I was bringing up that iterative process question before is because hang on, I gotta clarify here, is because I think a lot of people see like late night shows and things like John Oliver, Daily Show or whatever, and they think, oh, teams like probably spent like a day on this, put it together, and it's good to go. But like getting a chance to see that very first episode of Patriot Act go through that process and like you mentioned, like it takes months and months of research and like production and writing and rewriting to produce one episode. Like I think that's something that people don't recognize, right? Is that there's so much like mountains of work that goes into even one 25-minute segment. So
totally. it's kind of crazy how many people are involved and how many like feelings are involved, and so many people have different thoughts on it and emotions on it. It's just it's a like a just a bubbling, chaotic stew to make one of these episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was a gross analogy.
You thought it was gross?
I don't like the mental image I got of a bubbling stew. Just wasn't appetizing.
Stew, it's delicious.
Stew's great.
Like
got
stew is
lamb.
good, but like
Come
a
on.
bubbling stew somehow like just not into it.
All right. Well, good luck ever eating a stew. I'm pretty sure they all bubble when you boil them. They have to be boiled, right?
Bubbled at some point, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think bubbling is a part of the process.
The process. You're right. I just need to learn to appreciate the process.
I have a question for you guys. You guys are Muslims and you're in media and you're caring about these issues of Muslims in entertainment. Have you guys been following the Dua Gate?
Which one? Like the Hassan one?
Yeah.
Like Hassan's issue with the calling out people for making dua in the thing. I didn't realize it was like an actual thing. I think because I saw his follow-up interview with the DA and he mentioned it. I didn't realize it was like an actual big thing. Is it like was he actually getting like legit pushback? I
actually don't think so. That's why I'm asking you guys, because
I mean, I just assumed it was like a bit. So, I thought it was a bit. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think people's reaction to the actual dua he did with Keith Ellison is what people were actually more offended by.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I thought that was so funny.
Good.
Really? Oh my god!
You didn't like it?
I pitched it. I pitched it.
So amazing.
It was my idea.
10 out of 10 on that one.
Praying for LTE. That was amazing.
So here's the thing. I pitched it, and I pitched it to be like a little bit less like overt than the way that he ended up performing it and writing it. But I just thought it'd be funny. And then like it came out and I like didn't watch it. And then I suddenly saw on Facebook like a huge post about it, about some guy calling him like, this is utter blasphemy of the highest regard. Like people like really shitting on this bit that I just like wrote in Google Docs that I like didn't think they would do, and then they ended up doing it, and now the entire Facebook Ummah is mad at me. But anyway,
I mean, honestly, like people are gonna make noise all the time. Like that's something that we learned with the Mosquers a long time ago too. It's like no matter what you do, you're always gonna have people who have their own strong opinion. We hosted. Right. Have you ever heard of this cartoon called Bilal? It was like an animated Bilal. It was like an animated film that was like produced in the Middle East, but like actually had a pretty good cast. Anyway, long story short, we screened it here in Edmonton, and we were like the only people to do that. And we had like a sold out audience, like 600-700 people, and it was literally about like Hazrat Bilal, like the one of the companions of the Prophet, the first person to do adhan, so on and so forth. And like all these people started hating on us afterwards, being like, "Oh, they barely talk about Islam in this movie. How dare this person call himself Muslim?" Like people are always gonna find things to hate on, and at the end of the day, like if you're not able to look at things within the context in which they're being delivered, then like that's not on you, man. Like that's
right.
That's got to be something that people need to be better at. But I do want to ask you about that episode. Sana just chimed in saying Muslim Karens out there. I completely agree.
Karen with a Q.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I do want to ask you about that BLM episode that you guys did, because I think it was very important, especially within like the South Asian community, but I'm assuming also within the Arab community. It's something that is often not talked about enough. Can you tell us a little bit about why you guys thought it was so important to call out those specific ethnic groups, like our own ethnic groups, if you will, or was that something that Hassan felt particularly strong about, or tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, this isn't going to be an exciting answer, but because we didn't work on it. That was really just Hassan and the head writer. He consulted me on it for some of the like the Muslim takes that, like, you know, with regard to like the dua thing. Initially he was going to say no more dua, we need to blah 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 blah, and I was like, hey, you can't say no more dua, like you can say you can't just do dua, that's fine, but no more dua is like actually gonna offend people, like legitimately, to tell them not to pray, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't have too much say in what ended up getting shot. It was really just made for YouTube.
Right.
I don't know if it's like 7 minutes long. It's not like
yeah.
a huge thing, but it took off, and they ended up putting it on Netflix, which is really goes to show how kind of like finicky like Netflix is. Like if something is popular, they'll just kind of throw it up on the major platform, right? Like it kind of is just, this is a Hassan's joke, but it is just like a glorified YouTube page, in a weird way. It like gets legitimacy just because there's a big N when you click it. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought he performed it really well. He was really intense, and I think those issues are they're really brutal. Like the problem of racism in the Muslim community. It's like it's so sad. Just because we really do think of ourselves as like just beyond race, you know, like Muslims are kind of the ultimate colorblind, quote unquote, kind of community. Like, and just because of Bilal radiallahu anhu, like we just think that, well, we had a black guy involved in the first part, so we're good. You know what I mean? But then,
check the
like,
box, we're fine now.
Yeah, our prophet had a black best friend. It's like ultimately, basically, that's what we're saying.
We can't be racist.
Yeah, we can't be racist, exactly. But then,
Sorry,
it's
go
really
ahead.
sad.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna again say that it's just sad that we have such a problem with it, and we're really averse to talking about it because we feel almost like it's apocryphal to talk about, because we're like, well, I mean, Bilal, come on. And then you know the quote from the final khutbah about, you know, no black man is better than a white, and no white is better. Like we kind of just like lean on those two pretty heavily in the absence of actual like addressing like racial problems, you know. And it's really f***ed up how ubiquitous it is. Like it really is. You don't even think about it. Like my Syrian grandma will just like say some really colorist shit, and you just go like, you just like nod, just because it's easier than being like
that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think that was something that was so wonderful about that episode, is like it addressed colorism and anti-blackness within the Desi community specifically, but also others in the Muslim community, like so well that it was like you can't. I think it opened the door for a lot of people to be able to have those conversations. Like I know that video clip was circulating. We talk about the auntie WhatsApp chats here all the time, but it was like definitely in there, and like people were talking about it. And I really do think that was like a really necessary and wonderful thing that was done. I like the team, because I think it opened the door for a lot of those conversations.
It definitely did. I definitely did. I think it's interesting because I also got some people who like were pushing back on it, being like, oh, well, you know, white people want to tan, so why is it such a big deal that I want to become more fair? And it's like, you're kind of missing the point a little bit, right? Like, you know, that's not exactly what's being talked about over here. But yeah, I don't know, man. We got a long ways to go still, but we'll get there, inshallah.
Inshallah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I'm gonna pull this transition out of thin air, but Ismael, please tell us about your mustache. Going with.
Yikes.
Is it like a big part of your identity? Like I have so many questions.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
great.
without it. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
I need to hear the
Dude, I love it.
Praise. Thank you very much.
I feel like a lot of guys tried jumping on the mustache trend, me included, in like the beginning of the quarantine. It was like, well, I'm at home, like nobody's gonna see me. Let me try it out. But you are an OG mustache wearer, so respect.
Dude, thank you so much to both of you. I truly appreciate it. I mean, I thank God for it every day. And no, it's funny. It's funny to think of people as seeing me with it and like kind of pinning me to it, because I've always seen my mustache as like a weird bit of makeup to make me not look like a child. Like I feel like people don't know that without it, I look literally like I'm 19, maybe. Like I look really little without a mustache, or without any facial hair. I look like a baby boy. So I just did it to mark that I had like grown a little bit. You know what I mean? Just for my own sense of sanity. But yeah,
Fair, fair.
I guess for that reason, it's a part of my identity. It's preventing me from losing my mind.
Love it. I love it. Okay. So what is, so let me preface this part by for our listeners, letting them in on a little secret, on a sad secret, if you will. Ismael was actually supposed to be the host of this year's Mosquers, which unfortunately has been postponed due to COVID. So we are still hoping. We are still very hopeful that we're going to be able to make that happen, inshallah, next year. But what is next for you? What are you working on right now? Or is Patriot Act like all consuming?
Well, right now Patriot Act is off. We're actually done doing episodes, and we're waiting for a second season.
Or like a
this has all been
season.
one season.
Yeah,
this has all been one season. All these episodes, there were 38 episodes, or whatever.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah, it was one season order that they ordered 2 years ago. So season 1 is officially over, and we're waiting on season 2. And COVID really messed things up for me. I mean, obviously for everybody, but I was planning on going around pitching ideas to different networks and stuff for shows, and trying to see what I could do with myself prior to this. But it kind of, I don't know, I've been lost everything because of COVID. I don't know. I hate being such a bummer, but I'm just like working on packets right now to try to get another job in the event that we don't get picked up. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I mean, I would probably assume anyway that you guys are probably safe to get renewed, but who knows these days? I don't know.
Right.
Not to jinx it. Inshallah, you guys will get renewed.
Yeah.
But
Man.
gotta add that IA,
Can I ask you, what do other people say on the podcast when
like
you ask
what's
them,
next for them? I mean,
what's next for you in the midst of this pandemic that has ruined everything?
Yeah, straight up. I mean, a lot of people are still kind of trying to keep creative skills sharp by writing, or like you said, trying to get pitches out there. But if you're an actor or in like a show, like we just had Hamza Haq on, who I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Hamza's he's on the #1 show in Canada right now. It's called Transplant. It actually just got picked up by NBC, and he's in that same world where they're in between seasons, uncertainty as to like when they're going to start filming again. So they just recently got renewed, but he's like working on short films and doing things that he can do just to stay sharp. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like so many other industries, the creative space, especially around film, is like very much, I would assume, at a standstill right now. So it's probably
it really
trippy.
Is. It's very trippy, and I don't know. I'm just hoping for a vaccine, man. I'm just hoping that
straight up
that things kind of like can somehow get back to normal. Because a part of me is like trying to come to terms with just in case. I'm trying to ready myself mentally for a world where like there is no more stand up, and like I just have to like become a bricklayer in upper, just somewhere in Massachusetts or some shit. Just like be a guy.
Are you doing any digital sets? Like, is that
stepping on my questions here?
Oh, I'm sorry. You gotta jump in with that timing.
Listen, Sikandar's always quicker because he likes interrupting people more than I do. But I was gonna say, like, so we know, like, we've had a few other comedians on who have done sets over Zoom and stuff, and obviously, world of difference between doing it in front of a live audience in person. But like, have you tried that, or like, is that something that you're interested in trying?
I have not tried it, and my interest in it. No, I'm not interested in it. I'm trying to think of a way to like say it.
Just say no.
To leave it. I just
We're
want
not
to
pitching- we're not
leave the
pitching you, by the way.
possibility. No,
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to do your show. I'm not going to do it.
Come on,
No.
man.
It's. Oh shit! Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we hear you.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
good.
my AirPods are just making weird noises. They keep like
No, you're
sounding like they're dying. But I was gonna say, it's not the same experience. Stand up is so specific. Doing it in front of a crowd is the only reason to do it. It's you want to get those actual laughs. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's like just tweet, and I don't like tweeting either. So you know what I mean? Like, and
Fair
the number of
enough,
shows I've
man.
seen that have been performed on Zoom where like the next day they have to like release like a apology to people where they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we're so sorry that you know Nazi face 69 usurped the Zoom chat and started writing the N-word a bunch. Like, we're so sorry to everybody who was triggered. Like, they just sound like chaos. They don't sound fun.
Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Like I honestly feel for comedians who are having to do that. Like, not, they're I'm sure they're doing it because they want to do it as well. But like without getting that immediacy of like response of like a laugh or being able to like know that your joke has landed because everybody's on mute on a Zoom call, like that's gotta be
just
tough.
looking
Good.
at the squares to see some teeth. Like, are people smiling? What's happening?
But,
good God. Yeah, I would be way more open to just like putting a box on a street corner and like telling jokes like a old timey prophet or whatever.
Oh
you know
my
what
God,
I mean?
that'd be amazing.
That would be so much
Dude.
better.
Do that, record it, and put that on YouTube. That would be
100%.
incredible.
That would be
I'd be into
amazing.
it.
Okay,
I'd love to.
we are approaching an hour, so we're gonna start wrapping this up. But before we let you go, we have a couple of quick rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So, no thought required. Just first thing that comes to your mind. No right or wrong answers unless you give us a wrong answer, in which we'll let you know that that's a wrong answer. Okay, number one. Who's your dream collab?
Ooh, you don't want me to think?
Don't, just whatever comes to mind.
Jake
Go.
Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal.
All right, love it.
Ooh, good choice. Good choice.
I don't know what we would do together.
I know. I was like not expecting it to be him, but I'm very impressed.
It's like a buddy cop movie, I feel.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that project. Please make that a reality. Okay, who's your fave comedian?
Or comedy special.
Or comedy special or both?
My favorite comedy special, Ronnie Chang, put out a special.
Good choice.
I forgot its name already, but
yeah,
I remember watching
on
it
on Netflix, right?
Yes, it's so good. It's really funny and just it's like what I want to do with the special. You know what I mean? It's so funny, and it like you learn shit about like Chinese, like the language. Like he's so informative in it, and it's just as funny as if it was like not at all informative. Like I don't know.
I loved it. I thought it was so
I want
good.
to do. I want to do
laugh and learn together.
Yeah, knowing that you're learning. That's what I love.
Yeah, nice.
Like iterative. Okay. Number 3.
Oh wow.
What's the most binge? What? Go ahead.
My right AirPod is dead, so I don't know if that's messing with the audio. I just want to let you guys.
You sound fine. You sound fine.
Okay.
Okay. Number 3. What's the most binge-worthy show on any streaming platform right now? You're allowed to do a shameless plug here if you want.
Well, I'm not gonna do that.
Besides Patriot Act, but keep going.
Sure. Besides Patriot Act with Hassan Minaj, I think Search Party. I don't know how you watch it. Maybe Amazon Prime. That's why I'm watching it. I don't know if there's another way to do it. Search Party, yeah, it's a show by TBS. Really good, really funny, and
all right,
bingy, and just great. Like, yeah, it's great. It's with Alia Shawkat from Arrested Development. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Love it. Yeah.
Cool. And then last but not least, what is your favorite kind of potato?
Ooh, russet.
Okay, I appreciate that, but we mean this style of eating, like mashed or fries or waffle fries, or like. But russets are top dog potatoes.
Russets are great.
They are.
Wait, okay. This question. All right, what's my favorite kind of potato? I mean, a potato in like a curry is good. Like in a what's it called? In like a Thai curry, like a Penang maybe.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a good kind of potato. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, russets in any form are good. Yeah.
All right. Do you
Amazing.
like check with kitchens at restaurants? Are you like, are these russets or?
Yes, that's me exactly. I'm okay with whether I don't care if the chicken was free range. I want to know if it's russet.
The potatoes russet.
Is this yeah? What are these potatoes russet?
Amazing.
So good.
All right.
Okay. On that note, Ismael, thank you so much for your time, man. We really, really appreciate you coming and spending some time with us. Where can people find you? How can people see your stuff?
Instagram. I've been bad about it, but I'm gonna start posting again, inshallah, soon. Just like I'm gonna try to post clips and stuff. But yeah, Instagram, Ismael Y Loutfi, ISMAELYLOUTFI. That's my name.
Nice.
Boom, baby.
Don't you forget it. All
Don't
right.
y'all
Perfect.
forget it.
Amazing.
Also, and congratulations! You mentioned earlier this year you got married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is it that we're done? I won't ask more questions. Congratulations.
Thank you.
His wife is like roaming the streets right now, trying to give him some time.
Oh,
Yeah.
She's
All right.
miserable right
We
now.
won't keep her out anymore. Okay. All right, man. Thank you again so much.
Of course. Thank you. This was really fun.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.
Peace.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of The Halal Gap. You can find us online by searching Mosquers Film Festival on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time.
We'll speak at you next time.
We'll be in your ears next time.
All right. Thank you, Sana.
Thanks, Sana.
You're welcome.